And we are back. Episode 16, 1-6, the big 1-6 here, legally able to get a driver's license.
Totally about to say that. Our podcast can now drive.
In most states. I think Florida, 15 and a half, I think. Florida,
really?
yeah.
Is that for license or for permit?
I don't think there's rules in Florida, so I don't
well,
really,
I mean,
I honestly,
sounds right.
I know they need to have a permit longer, only because my nephew just turned 18, so it's a year for them.
Is it really?
Here it was 6 months. At least it was 6. I remember when we were of age, it was 15 to 10 months.
Yeah.
And then 6 months. But I don't know. That was also
6 months and like so many hours of driving or something like that.
Yeah, we had to do road lessons in Massachusetts, like required. And did they help? There's a reason why they call us massholes. I have no clue what a week it was in professional wrestling. And we have to start with the number one question of the week. Do you believe in Joe Hendry? Thank you for the claps.
Yes.
Flana-bam.
1000% believe in Joe Hendry.
Catchiest song since Glorious? Maybe?
I mean, maybe even catchier.
Possibly, yeah.
Especially because he did it himself.
This is true.
Yeah, I saw his interview. He was on Busted Open today. And shout out to LaGreca and Bubba Ray and the boys. But he talked about how like he's been making music for like a decade plus. And he's like, yeah, nothing ever came of it. And all of a sudden now I'm waking up on days like today where JBL is saying that I'm like the best thing in wrestling since like whenever, you know.
Right.
And his appearance this week on NXT was super dope, fun. That right there is just like if you needed an example of how in tune the current regime is, there's your example right there. A guy that's going viral and another, you know, granted, I understand that they've had a connection with NXT, TNA these past, month or so, but still, like, capitalizing on it, and it is now, who knows, maybe as of today, it's even past it. It's now the second most viewed video on WWE social media.
Second most.
Behind.
We'll get to what the
most
is.
We're going to get to what the most is.
We'll save that for a bit.
But,
I mean, you could argue that currently Joe Hendry is like the second most over guy in wrestling.
Yeah.
Behind only Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
And even that is probably closer than people think.
There's going to be certain pockets that are going to go Joe Hendry.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, for sure, but it's the definition of like something so silly and dumb, realistically. I mean, you think back to like Fandango.
Yeah. Right?
And his whole shtick, his whole gimmick. And I know there's current theme songs that people love to sing along with, Cody and Seth and Yeet, people yeeting off everywhere. But there's something magical about when that Joe Hendry and that unison clap hits.
Yeah.
That just changes the game.
Yeah, the pop. Yeah. At first, I don't know that the PC has seen many pops like that. Certainly not for non-exclusive WWE talent.
Absolutely
They were all in. Like, it couldn't have gone in. And I think even the way they did it with him being eliminated so quickly and how when I think that is going to prolong the story in so many ways where he could have went in and had a different type of impact and, probably not won. And I think it would have been less memorable, but I think the way they did it was just perfect for him.
Oh, absolutely. Plus, it leaves more to be desired. Yeah. Now people are wanting more.
And there's so many folks too. As many folks are on the Joe Hendry chain, there's so many folks who also woke up the next morning and were like, okay, who's this guy? Now I need to go do all my Googles and all my research. And as you mentioned, I've seen so many wrestlers and people in the business showing him love and being like, yeah, this is nothing new. He's been doing these things. You're just now seeing it on that audience.
Yeah, which, again, kudos to WWE, NXT, HBK, everybody involved for this NXT-NA happening that's going on. Like, you basically making an open competition for the 25-man battle royal for the NXT, number one contendership. Right. And yeah, you get that. And we lead the show with it because it is the most viral moment of the week. Oh, second most viral moment of the week and second most viral moment since Mania. So you're talking about think about how many things have happened in the last few months of wrestling, and you still have two things essentially from one company really popping off. So shout out to Joe Hendry and what a punchable face too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is what you want. He's perfect.
Yeah.
The gimmick to carry is perfect. Yeah. It's the perfect person to play the role.
Perfect for what he does. Mm-hmm. He does it to a T.
Yep. And it's funny because even like sometimes with that, he's from Scotland, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes with that accent, you can go a sentence or two where you really don't feel the accent.
Right.
It just sounds like he's like an American from below the Mason-Dixon, which just adds fuel to the fire, which makes it even better.
The music video, like zooming into his face as he's clapping, is like,
and the face he makes on top of it is so good.
I there's nothing that makes me like happier and more angry at the same time. I honestly don't know what I even can compare it to. Like, I've watched it a billion times this week, and even just seeing him come out and soaking it in, which he talked about also on Busted Open, like embracing that moment, soaking in that pop, because this wasn't an overnight thing for him. Like, he's been working at it for a very long time. So just seeing his face and in the way he was in the moment, but also in character, was fucking great. And God, I really hope that something comes of him, and who knows what it'll be. Sometimes things like this fizzle out, but I believe in Joe Hendry.
I don't think this is going to fizzle out.
Yeah.
What I really hope is they do give him some type of NXT feud, and we get the big classic Joe Hendry move where he then makes another song about his opponent. Almost like a diss track, but not a rap version. Obviously.
Yeah, no, hell yeah.
So he's done that in TNA. He did it when he was on the Indies in England, or the UK, because I think he wasn't just in England. That's like his thing when he has an opponent. He makes a song about them.
Sign me up over to the point where we get the diss track where John Cena throws a verse on the diss track.
Yeah.
Like there's so many fun possibilities here. I love it. I think it's awesome.
So good, so good.
There's no way it was a Triple H idea though, because that's he doesn't have good ideas according to the excellence of execution. He's probably the only person who woke up Wednesday and was like, "What is this shit?"
Yeah. Well,
no.
He's a very...
There's one other person I can think of that probably felt that same way.
Who?
Maybe a Mr. Tennis Racket.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I
mean, he hasn't said anything that I've seen, but I wouldn't put it past him to not love that.
Yeah, just because it was fun.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, who cares? We're having fun. It's been great, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
I mean, I'm honestly feel like from Clash at the Castle all the way till even last night's Dynamite, this genuinely was like the best week of wrestling we've had since we started this podcast.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you could go all the way back to last week's Raw. I mean, if you think about last week's, I'm sorry, did you mention something before that? Sorry, I was reading.
No, I said I went from Clash at the Castle all the way to last night. Like, all of those.
Yeah,
like, there was no misses.
Go home Raw, go home SmackDown, Clash at the Castle, back to Raw, NXT, Dynamite. Yeah, it's been
the only reason I didn't mention that is because I'll be completely honest, I've forgotten how last week's AEW Dynamite was. Last night's was really good. Yes. I don't remember the last week's.
I don't.
So that's why I didn't want to go that far back.
Yeah, well, last night's was pretty good. I did watch a little bit last night, but again, you're gonna find on this show, finding a way to convince my 8-month pregnant wife to watch 4 nights of wrestling. It's tough.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
I count on the kayfabe cousins to keep me up to date on the things that I missed in AEW. So we'll get the AEW update from the kayfabe cousins later on in the show. But Flanabam, you mentioned it. We talked about it before the show started. Clash of the Castle also happened in these past 6 days. So just to put the bow on that, because so many things already changed on Monday night from basically what happened Saturday in Scotland. But to put a bow on it, some of the things we talked about, we knew with CM Punk, right? I think they played that perfectly.
Which I didn't pick up on it at first, but when he did the 2 count and they showed him, he did the gravesite.
Oh yeah, he was there. Yeah,
and I didn't pick up on that. But like the T-shirt that Drew had made, I'm like, that's such a good touch. And it's also a good touch because I have since found out that apparently this in the UK is fuck you.
Oh, there you go.
So
even better.
It's like a double meaning, like 2 count, but also fuck you.
So let's go.
So it's like a double meaning type thing.
I'm going to start throwing out some.
Now. Yeah.
Hey, what's up, buddy? How are you doing? Fuck you. No, I mean, they played that to perfection. Even if we knew it was coming months ago, it was done so well. The press conference afterwards, he's rocking the Celtic warm-up jacket, which we know that Drew is a known Rangers supporter, which in Scotland, that's like Red Sox, Yankees.
No. Which I love because I wouldn't call myself a Celtic supporter, but I heavily lean towards that. So, that was awesome. When he came in the warm-up, I'm like, come on.
I rocked the Rangers kit.
Like, come on.
I bought a Rangers kit on that I wore Saturday during Clash of the Castle. So I was in support of Drew, even though I knew my guy was probably going to lose. But yeah, so that was good. We wrapped the bow on that. You're setting up now. Damian Priest is retaining the title. We'll get to his next opponent, but CM Punk, Drew McIntyre. This has been built now. We knew he was going to get the interruption. Monday night at Raw, okay, because we'll kind of combine what went from Clash to Raw. Monday night at Raw, Drew comes out. We're expecting this scathing promo. We're expecting him to go off on CM Punk. He's at a loss for words, and he just says, "I quit."
Yeah.
And he takes off. Drew McIntyre quits WWE, drops the mic, takes off. Backstage, they're trying to prevent him from leaving. So now, what do we think this is? Do we think he's now on hiatus, or do we think this is a swerve and he's going to pop out in Chicago tomorrow night on SmackDown?
I think that's what it is. I think in CM Punk had alluded to it in the press conference that he wasn't going to be there Monday. He's instead going to go and get cleared. He's going to be there Friday. I think this is exactly what this is. I think we'll see Drew on Friday, one, because it's Chicago.
Right.
It makes perfect sense that, okay, you got me in my hometown. Now let me come and get you in your hometown. So I think he absolutely pops up Friday. I'm curious to see what it is. He swerved the shit out of me Monday.
Yep.
That is not what I was expecting. I was expecting him, like you said, to kind of go scorch earth. So again, tip of the cap to Trips and crew for, again, keeping us on our toes, and we thought we knew what was coming. But yeah, I think he absolutely pops up Friday. I don't think he's going to necessarily go anywhere. If they weren't in Chicago Friday, I could see him maybe taking a little bit of a hiatus, even if it was just a week or two. But I think being that it is Chicago, obviously CM Punk's going to be there, highly positioned in the card, either starting the show or ending the show, likely. So I absolutely think Drew McIntyre is going to have something in store for him Friday.
I don't think he is.
No?
I kind of think they're going to
Deactivated his Twitter account.
He's
He's gone like 0 dark 30.
Because I only just think it would be too quick of a turnaround. I do think they kind of want to draw. I mean, it makes perfect sense to do it in Chicago, but I also think that's what everybody's expecting, which could be another way to draw it out. You subvert expectations, and he does it so somewhere else. I know Punk said he's hoping to be cleared by like early July, so there's a chance Punk gets cleared. They give him a warm-up match. Maybe that's where Drew comes back and fucks him over in his first match back.
I think one other thing, too, I'm thinking about, and this is just me already in my fantasy booking.
Yeah, let's get it.
I'm in a whole nother world here. We know who, and we'll talk about this later, who debuted on Monday Night Raw this week. There's a lot of them.
Yes.
So what if they are somehow positioning where Drew and Punk move to Friday and kind of move the feud to Friday? There's a little more roster spots there compared to Raw. What if you make that change and this is kind of that kickoff of, okay, I'm leaving. He can even say I'm quitting. You know, he can turn this around and say I'm quitting, but I was only quitting Raw. I'm going over here to SmackDown now to do X, Y, and Z. They can obviously make it make sense behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But I also think that could be another plot twist where now they both move to Friday and they kind of shake the card up a little bit.
The only reason why there's two reasons why I don't think that's going to happen. One, SmackDown's a shorter show, so like the longer show, blend works better
We'll always
for
have that bigger roster.
more storylines type of stuff. And if you move them to SmackDown, you've now fucked over some other storyline there. And the other thing was Drew specifically said something along the lines of like, screw this company.
Yes.
Not just screw this show. He said, screw this company. I quit. Meaning, and Triple H was also tried to stop him.
To get him.
Which was very nice foreshadowing for something later, which we'll come back to. And it's as opposed to just Adam Pearce trying to stop him. Like Triple H trying to stop him as well makes it feel more like it's the full company he's quitting, quote unquote, as opposed to just Raw.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're holding on to kayfabe, it makes sense for him because it's like, listen, nobody is stopping this stuff from happening. He just does whatever he wants. He screwed me over 2 times. I'm done with this. I'm done with CM Punk. So there's that, and there's that storyline. Who knows? Maybe it's on a little bit of a break. Maybe Drew goes away for a little bit and gives Punk his shine. You know, we know he's going to be at SmackDown tomorrow night or tonight, whenever you are watching this in Chicago. But you have another thought on that before I move on?
One thing that just hit me that I could see happening is if Punk gets cleared early enough, maybe he enters Money in the Bank, and that's where Drew comes back and screws him over. Like maybe it's a thing where like he's about to get the briefcase, and then there's Drew to push over the ladder type of thing.
Well,
with the referee shirt.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that would actually be a sick touch.
You know, that's not really that long shot of a possibility, considering the return that we got Monday night, which was somebody that nobody expected, right? There was no rumors of this at all.
No fucking way. That music hit, and I was like, wait a minute.
I was like, oh, okay, so he's, even if the appearance, I was like, oh, cool, he's going to start some shit.
Yeah.
Seth freakin Rollins makes his return to Monday Night Raw, and no, it's not just to go out there for a pop and say, hey, I'm still alive. My man now has himself a heavyweight championship match against Damian Priest at Money in the Bank in just a few weeks. So that caught me off guard from start to finish.
Yeah.
I don't know how we were just talking about Punk being cleared. How the fuck is Seth Rollins?
Dude couldn't walk at Mania.
Like we just talked about this last week. Shout out to No C. The man's knee was shredded.
Yeah.
He could not get up on his own.
Literally
2
gone.
grown men had to pick him up at Mania and carry him out of there. So how the fuck is it in what? How many
3
Steiner math?
months,
Less than
close
3
to 3
months.
months.
I
Not
think
even
less than
3 full months.
where he's been
like
gone.
2.5.
I have a hard time thinking, what he would have had, whether it's scope, meniscus. Those things take a while, especially in the knee where he was. I could not believe he was back. And then obviously the way the promo went, to know that he's now going to be in the ring in 2 weeks.
2 or 3, give
Yeah,
or take.
2 or 3 weeks.
Within 2 or 3 weeks.
That's nuts. Nuts. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I love it, but I couldn't fucking believe it.
The only thing I can think of is Seth is a better worker than any of us even realized, and he wasn't even that hurt at Mania. That's the only thing that makes any type of logical sense to me.
I mean,
No, I know. I don't believe it, but it's the only thing that makes any sort of sense.
Yeah, because I can't fathom
Exactly.
you go from that to this.
What is he, fucking
And
John
like, sure,
Cena?
we haven't seen him. He was in the ring the other day. He wasn't doing anything. But the fact that they're clearing him for that this quickly, obviously they're not going to throw him back in there.
Right.
I just want him and everybody else stay off the ropes for a little while. They
Yeah.
gotta, I don't know what they got to do. They got to get the friction up on them things or
They do.
something.
Well, they were loose apparently. There's a video of AJ at the
yes,
very
with the
start of
referee.
his match. The ref goes over to the ropes and goes, "They're
The
loose."
same exact top rope that Jade fell
Yeah.
off of. The
And, like,
same
you can
exact
see- you can
one.
see 'em,
Shook
like,
him and
shake
said
'em,
how
and
loose they are. Yeah.
They wobble more than they usually do.
Yeah, I was gonna cape for Jade, and I was totally gonna go there. When the time comes.
Oh
But
yeah, I mean it was obvious that it wasn't her error. Like you
absolutely
could just
not.
see that something with the ropes wasn't right because and think about how many times she's practiced that.
Yep.
It wasn't like she over jumped it or under jumped it or
And there
fell
was
flat.
one or two other spots during that pay-per-view
Yes.
where in that corner specifically people were slipping or things were
I
happening.
mean,
Yeah,
Damian
it was
Priest
not right.
with the
Oh my
scariest
God,
spot of the
that was
night.
nasty.
Yeah.
They turned it into something, but
Yeah.
I mean, the three of us, our leg is shattered if that happens. to us,
100%.
But somehow
I'm still in Scotland.
Yeah,
Like,
deadass. I'm in Glasgow as we speak.
I'm still in the ropes.
yeah.
If that happens.
Untangle
No
my
way.
ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was some wild, like, fucking 96 HBK shit.
Yeah.
The way he just got in there. And the way he got caught in there looked, and I don't know if we talked about, I remember seeing it, people were like, is this a shoot or is this a work? Because
Right.
the
Yes.
way he went right in the ropes was like, there's no way that was on purpose. But also, there's no way that was on accident because it was perfect.
Especially the slow-mo version. I'm like,
Yes.
oh shit, did he do that on purpose?
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah. So thankfully he's okay, and I think even Triple H said after in the press conference, like we all like all of our stomachs dropped. We were like, oh shit, like what the
could've been
fuck is
so
gonna
bad.
happen next? But everything's fine with Damian, thankfully.
Campeón.
But Seth, maybe make sure those ropes are nice and tight because he's had some spots that he's blown out a knee, he's hurt other people, and been doing the buckle bomb and all that
bomb,
shit.
yeah.
So just make sure those ropes are nice and tight. But how do you guys feel about him being thrown right into a title match? Because I think I saw some people little not too thrilled about that.
So the only reason I'd kind of be upset about it is they've already established twice now with two different people that if you lose, you go to the back of the line.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Seth technically never went to the back of the line.
Yep.
He lost the title. He lost cleanly. There's no he lost the Drew clean at Mania,
Yep.
and he didn't go to the
Yeah.
back of the line.
All
He's
the
now
shenanigans were
jumped
after.
right to the front of the line. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's the part of it too that where it was like pretty much the champion's decision, right? Where we talked about last week with Cody and AJ and how like Cody left it up to AJ to kind of force his hand. So now similar.
But Seth didn't really do anything to force his hand. He's just like, hey, give me a match.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Damian Priest is also trying to prove himself.
And that's what I thought. I thought it was really, really. We've talked about the Priest face turn. I thought this promo again this week was even more of an
Big
indication
time.
that it's here. Like it's already fucking here.
He's full on like
Yeah,
trying.
the way
to
he
face.
did that, you were the one I wanted to be for the belt, and I wanted it to be you, and I still want it to be you, and this, that, and the other. Clearly, you can see where he's going. Maybe I'm being biased here. Anyone other than Seth Rollins, I probably would be a little more up in arms. But the fact that it's Seth freaking Rollins, I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I don't mind that.
Oh, I'm 100% down
yeah.
for the match. I just,
Because
from a
it's just
kayfabe
like-
perspective, it's
I'm
like
saying,
you've
doesn't-
established that people have to go to the back of the line.
It doesn't make sense. And I wonder if somehow, again, maybe it does have to do with Drew taking a hiatus, and they're like, okay, well, this is the pivot, so we'll go to Rollins because we don't want to go to, Punk's not ready, or we don't know who it makes sense to put in there.
Right.
Maybe it's also an opportunity where we want to keep the belt on Damian for a little bit,
Yeah.
and this is a person who can take a loss from him, and it really isn't going to hurt him. Like,
Oh, no,
nobody's going to
absolutely
care
not.
that Seth's first match back at Money in the Bank is a loss to.
And you have an
to
easy
Priest.
out.
It's gonna, it's
Exactly.
not slowing
Injury,
him down.
not back
exactly.
yet.
So I think from that standpoint, they're like, you know what, we really can't go wrong here. But yeah, I would think if it was a lot of other folks, I probably would have been like, even from a KP standpoint, like, fuck this. But Seth
Right.
Rollins, I'm just happy to see him back, and I'm like,
Yeah.
if somehow he can wrestle in 3 weeks, I want to see that because
100.
I
That match
can't
is
even
going to
fathom
be a
it.
killer.
And everybody else in that part of the card for that title specifically is kind of wrapped up in something.
Yeah.
you
Right.
know, and they're
Gunther's
not
waiting.
He's not ready
Right.
to pull the trigger on that yet. Which who knows where that's going to go now too?
Haven't seen him for a couple weeks now.
because
right?
now Gunther, no,
Yeah.
he hasn't been on TV for a
haven't seen him
couple
for a
weeks.
couple
I mean, he
weeks.
doesn't have anything really
Yeah.
going
He's
on.
waiting till SummerSlam.
Uh,
Which he kind of made that point when Damian and Drew had like their face off
When he walked out,
When
yeah,
he
he's
walked
like,
out, he was kind of like,
"Yep.
"I'll see you guys
see
after
one
you
of
handle
you."
this," basically.
But here's what leads us to the next phase of the World Heavyweight title is what else happened at Clash of the Castle. Sami Zayn retains the Intercontinental title. Chad Gable enters into the Money in the Bank match.
Maybe.
Essentially, it's basically what he's saying.
No, but I'll explain why when we come to the thing later.
Okay.
Is it because he got shot in the head?
Yeah, because he's dead.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah,
So
'cause
maybe
he
won't
died. I forgot he died.
Yeah, that's what I was alluding to. I
Yeah.
wasn't going to spoil it yet, but yeah.
Fair
'Cause
enough.
He's
Okay,
dead, so
okay.
he might not actually
I haven't
be
gotten
in
that
Money
image
in
out of my head since Monday,
Same.
by the way.
That's a
Which,
valid
by
point.
the way, has anybody had a worse week in
He had a worse- what a
in the
worse
history
night.
of
Well, it's
life
funny. I think it was
than
you, Mike, who said
Chad
Chad
Gable?
Gable burial. And I was like, well, yeah, did literally, quite literally.
You figure he loses at Clash at the Castle, he loses to Braun, he loses his team,
Yep.
and then he gets murdered
On television
on television.
by a bunch of supernatural freaks.
And then kayfabe biggest piece of shit in all of wrestling, Jey Uso, doesn't care about that.
Yeah. Yeah, Jey, whatever. Jey Uso, he got his Money in the Bank title after winning this match on Monday night.
I'm just saying, as far as the kayfabe perspective goes, Jey Uso might be the biggest piece of shit
Kind
in
of
all
a
of
dick.
wrestling.
Kind of a dick.
He might be the biggest piece of shit in all. Because did you guys see the digital exclusive he did after?
No.
So he did an interview with, I think it was Kathy Kelly
Yeah.
afterwards. And it's after the thing we'll talk about later, the murders happened.
Yes.
And Jey Uso could not give less of a shit about
Yeah.
multiple people being murdered. He's just like, I don't give a fuck. I'm in Money in the Bank.
Yeah, he's got his eyes on the prize, man. I mean, why?
Kayfabe piece of shit.
He also is Solo's brother, so that's that
you know
little
what, that's a
bit
fair
of,
point.
and Jimmy's
It
for that.
could
for
still
that
be the
point,
bloodline
yeah.
sticking in him.
No, we're talking Timu bloodline, though, okay? Don't forget. Shout out to No C. But yeah, Sami Zayn retains. And I'm not here to brag, to gloat, to boast.
But you're going to?
I did call that. I said it wouldn't have made any sense to pull the trigger that early. The feud with Otis is way too hot. They're building towards that.
See, that's where we still disagree. Because he didn't win, you were right there, but I still think he should have won. Especially now with what they're doing with Sammy, because that, more than the Otis stuff, doesn't need the title. I think the Otis thing would benefit even more with
but
the
I don't
title.
think it does. You've built, you're splitting a faction. Anytime you have personal beef, right, you don't need a title attached to it. And this was the issue with, I mean, look at the Usos, their match, just speaking on recent terms. I don't think Otis and Gable, in order to make Otis a legitimate future title contender, he needs to beat Chad Gable. Because we know Chad Gable, even though he's never held a solo belt.
Not first. You keep that story like Chad should win the first one, and then they do a rematch, maybe even at Mania, and that's where Otis gets his win back.
Yeah, but
Otis should lose.
I don't
first
think
one.
that needs the title, and I don't even know if Otis is an Intercontinental Champion. Personally, I don't know. Because he's over right now. I don't see him as.
I don't see him as a world champion yet.
No, but
I want to see him run with the IC title first.
You would put somebody like Otis ahead of Braun Breaker. I mean, hell, even Sheamus.
At the moment, yeah, that he's more over than both of them.
I don't. But it's a difference between being over and being like next. And Otis has had multiple opportunities. Listen, I love Otis, but his feud with Chad Gable right now and protecting Maxine and Tozawa and, what that's going to lead to me, made no sense to put the title on Gable. It didn't need it. It doesn't need it. Sami Zayn needs that right now because now he's carried it right on to now, oh, shit, now I got to face somebody potentially like Braun Breaker. Like, that's a guy that could, I believe, is Intercontinental Champion right now. Otis is not.
Here's my biggest argument of why I disagree with you. Think back to Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho with the Festival of Friendship and that great turn. And the
You lost me at Chris Jericho. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but also,
I'm kidding.
Sorry, I'll
the
let you
big
finish.
feud they had, Kevin Owens was the Universal Champion at the start of that, and everybody thought this is going to be a Universal title match, and it would have made that feud feel much bigger than it ended up feeling because they took the title off of him.
But you're talking about Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho. We're talking about Chad Gable, who's never held the Intercontinental title, and
Right.
Otis the same. So to me, the story itself, you'll get a pop if somebody like Otis gets a win over Chad Gable, because then to me that elevates him to Intercontinental status. He's on the card, kayfabe, non-kayfabe. He's not ahead of Braun Breaker right now. Hell, he's not ahead of Sheamus, which they're giving an Intercontinental look right now as well. And then he's not Sami Zayn yet either. And I think what you're probably leading up to is Sammy losing to somebody like Braun Breaker, and then maybe Chad taking Chad's probably going for the heavyweight title now. That storyline is done. Now you have the Alpha Academy and Chad and whatever the hell title, heavyweight.
Which makes it worse, in my opinion. The whole point of Chad's heel turn was he wanted to be IC champion. So if you now move him above the IC title, it kind of diminishes everything that's led up to that point.
But in turn, it's also developed this turn on the Alpha Academy. Like, he was fine with them prior to Sammy winning the title at WrestleMania, and then shit hit the fan.
Right, because he wasn't IC champion. The whole point of the feud was the IC title.
But it's developed into more, okay?
I'm not saying it hasn't.
It's like if I don't fix a leaky pipe, okay, and the leaky pipe is an issue, that's annoying, drip, drip, and then if I don't fix it, now I'm worried about the fucking flood in my basement, not the leaky pipe. So that's kind of what you have here.
But you're going to fix the leaky pipe. That's
after I clean the flood.
You would fix it first, because otherwise you're still cleaning the flood.
Nah, that's not. I don't know.
That's exactly how that would work. Your analogy was a bad analogy.
It's not, because guess what? I still have to walk through fucking an ocean of water to get through it. So
what you worry about after you
this is
stop the
PTSD
dripping.
for you as well, Mike.
It is.
It is PTSD.
Fuck the floods. My 2 cents, because I see both points, and I'm somewhere in the fucking middle here. Not because I'm just trying to hedge bets, but I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I
cool.
think
You're
for
being
me,
Switzerland.
I'm Switzerland. I like the Swiss. So my I guess thought is, I don't see Gable. Love Gable. I don't see him being in the talks for anything more than like an IC belt at this point, just because I think there's too much in the title hunt picture. Do I think in the last few months has Gable fucking elevated through the roof? Absolutely. He broke a glass ceiling that shouldn't have been there anyway. So, but also my concern is, once this feud wraps up, if one has a belt or neither has a belt, what comes from it after? So my thought is, if Gable were to have gotten the belt, say last week or somewhere down the line, and then you go and you have that feud where Gable wins, and then ultimately you get to the point where, do we give Otis the IC belt? To your point, Mike, I wouldn't give Otis the IC belt today, even with the pop and him being as over as possible. I
wouldn't give it to him this year,
because we've seen it iterations before, specifically him when he won Money in the Bank, which we know is not the same as an actual belt. Many people win and never cash in and never goes anywhere. Right. So I can understand them not wanting to put the belt on Otis now. Could Otis be ready for the belt at Mania? Maybe. We don't know. Possibly. At this trajectory, of course, but we know so many things are going to change. A couple of players who have been on the sidelines are going to come back and naturally jump them. So I think that's really the long game, is where do you see Otis after this? Where do you see Gable after this? I think right now, today, Gable's way more sustainable without anything, just because he's shown that work. But also, at a certain point, he's going to have to get something. You got to give him something at some point. Is it now? Is it not? Do you jump the IC? Maybe. But my also concern is, what the fuck do you do with Otis? Because how do you keep Otis hot? Right. I think you can keep Otis hot this same way for a certain amount of time, but then at a certain point, there's got to be a payoff. Is the payoff a belt, or is the payoff you beat Chad Gable at SummerSlam or Mania just for Maxine, for Tozawa, whatever it is? But I think there's got to be something concrete at the end of that for one or both of them, or else they're both going to flounder, and neither one of them are going to be better for it. So whether the payoff was last week, in a month, or 6 months, they got to know what the fuck they're doing with both of them long term, or else they're going to completely screw both of them in the process.
Yeah, and you have to also consider the fact they just killed Chad Gable on television. So now does the Alpha Academy feel
literally
responsible?
And figuratively? Because when he was screaming afterwards in the ring, and I don't know if this was around the same time you sent that text, Mike, I was like, this looks like somebody who's not going to get any sort of payoff here.
Yeah.
Like, this thing is ending, it's fracturing, even not in the big crescendo that we thought of happening. And I love that it's kind of a slow play, and Otis is still waiting, because it's going to make it so much better when it happens. But it seems like they're already not burying Sammy, but in a kayfabe standpoint, but it might seem like in a non-kayfabe standpoint, they're like, all right, well, I mean, not Sammy, Chad, like, I don't, well, did you kind of, blow your load already, Chad? Right. What do we have to do with you outside of Otis? Which is a concern, because they need to capitalize on this shit. They really fucking do. I hope neither one of them flounder because they can't decide which way to do it.
The only thing I'm now, conspiracy theory wondering is, so Chad said over the weekend he's re-signed, but what if he hasn't? This is how they wrote him off.
Yeah,
murder him. That's how you get written off. And murder him.
It also came out
escalation from Ricochet.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it also came out earlier today that Chad Gable was the only active superstar that was in that attack.
Yeah.
Everybody else was a paid like talent extra, whatever,
to
come in.
Champion 10 years from now, like Triple H said.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
yeah.
A lot of those guys.
Maybe the guy who's completely brain blown out on the wall will be the one.
I did notice that. That stuck out to me, that he was the only one. I'm like, that could be a good thing for him.
Maybe a built sympathy from the Alpha Academy to be like, this is our fault. We left his side, and this is what happens, and this is how you drag it out. This is why you don't need a belt on that story. You just don't. Because what? Otis is trying to prove that he is the head of the, no pun intended, the head of the table, like can stand up to Chad Gable, and that
Etsy
alone,
bloodline,
right?
And it's gonna happen again, and they can drag it out. And I think the proof in that situation is the fact that they have now Sheamus, a legend, Braun Breaker, an up and coming stud, involved with Sami Zayn and going after the IC title now. And to me, that automatically pushes the Alpha Academy and Otis just out of the IC picture completely.
But I look at Sheamus as a guy that doesn't need to.
No, he doesn't.
He's a legend. He doesn't need to go after belts at all. And Braun is a guy that I would rather see them build a few more months for before you put him in a title feud that you either win and maybe made him a champion too soon, or you have him lose sooner than he should.
And the thing
which is why Chad Gable being champion right now would make the most sense for those aspects as well.
The thing I loved about what they did Monday with both Sheamus and Braun is love Sheamus. We all love Sheamus.
Yeah.
You know, banger after banger. He's so many iterations. Him coming back for what he came back from, love him. I am glad that at least for time being, they chose to go with Braun. And I think it sends a clear message to the roster, to everyone.
Did they, though?
Well, yeah, they might not have. But I'd like to think that's what they're going. Selfishly, I hope they go there. And I think it's kind of a sign, like, there's a changing of the guard here, folks. Yeah. It doesn't matter how long you've been here, how much work you've put in. If you're not over and if you're not that person, we got enough motherfuckers to push. Men, women, or other. We don't need you just for the sake of your cachet, your name, your standing, and what you've done. And I love that. I think we're seeing a little bit in NXT, like thinking of a Javon Evans out of nowhere. There's so many others in line, right? You think about the line, like get to the back of the line, like no, fuck that. Braun Breaker's like, there is no line for me. I will break the line in half. I'm here.
I am the line.
No choice. Yeah, the line starts behind me, and I love. It feels like that is kind of the word, the feeling from top down from Trips, and I fucking love that. Love the dog. No pun intended for Braun. Doggy dog world. Show up and show out, or get to the back of the line.
I love the push he's getting. I'm just saying I would wait a couple more months before putting him in the IC title picture.
But I wonder if it's because it's him and how they're building him that it's like, no, this is part of the build and the gimmick of like, no, he's ready and he's here, like it or not.
The only problem with that is you either have to, like I said, maybe have him win sooner than he's ready for, or have him take a loss that I don't want to see him have.
You don't want. I know. Yeah.
My actual hope is maybe if this is the way they're going, which this is the way they're going,
triple threat
Sheamus
match, takes the
Sheamus
pin.
Takes the title, so he can finally be a Grand Slam champion.
Yep.
And then Braun takes off of him a couple months from now. Maybe around Survivor Series.
That would make a lot of sense.
Think Survivor Series, whatever they do in October, which could be a returning Bad Blood pay-per-view, which would be dope.
Yeah, in thinking, like, to your point of you could have took the belt off of Sami and gave it to Gable. Sami doesn't need the belt either. I don't think at this point he doesn't. I think he needs it less, even like less than a Sheamus or less than those other guys. So, yeah, that could be a way to not necessarily bury Sami. I don't think it would be a burial of Sami, but I do think for Sami's character, kayfabe or not, how people portray him, a loss like that may have people looking at him differently. So you can do it off of Sheamus if you want, and I don't think that's necessarily going to knock Sheamus back.
But I also think that actually works well for Sami because Sami plays the underdog better than almost anybody in wrestling history.
Oh, you can build him and Braun for the next 18 fucking months if you want with that. For sure.
Yeah.
You could have him be the one to take a loss, and everybody's like, oh, shit, Sami's going down a peg. And then all of a sudden he wins the Rumble and takes the title off of Gunther after he wins it at SummerSlam, more than likely.
Yeah. But Sami's going to hold the title for the next few months at least. I mean, that's kind of just what it looks like to me.
I wouldn't be surprised if he drops it at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Which is a month and a half away, give or take.
It's possible.
Beginning of August.
Yeah. Beginning. Was it? I don't remember.
It's like August.
Yeah, it is. It's the first week of August.
First week of August.
So it's a little earlier than usual this year.
So, yeah, I mean, interesting plot twist approaching now with the debut that we got on Monday and what they did to Chad and what that's going to mean for Alpha Academy and Chad Gable and the Money in the Bank match that he was allegedly going to be in and whatever.
How do you have him come back and be in that triple threat match next week?
Great question.
How do you justifiably do that?
With the hole in his head.
Right.
He's a full-blown zombie gimmick. Totally different. He's vampire.
Bare minimum, he needs like a thick-ass bandage on his head.
Well, I mean, granted, we did only see him unconscious in a little blood.
Technically, yeah. It's just the way they did the blood. And we'll get into it. But the one thing I do want to point out from that whole Braun Sheamus, the match was awesome, but the camera angle of him snapping Kaiser in half. We've talked about it. The camera angles have been awesome. All the things, like another great job of them accentuating that and making him look like even more of a monster.
So I'm going to be a bit nitpicky on this. I love
that. No way.
I know. This is shocking. I loved that camera angle. I didn't love when they used it. I didn't like them using it as the live shot. I wish they'd saved it for the replay. Because I think the live shot of just Kaiser and Braun coming out of nowhere is such an impactful shot. To then you show the replay of the up top shot. I would have done it that way.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I would have changed. The shot itself, great shot.
I could see it both ways.
Used it as the replay
You ever watch Planet Earth?
No, I have. Yeah.
When you see, they show the wide angle of the cheetah chasing down the deer. That's what I want. I want that shit.
But just think of Pat's oh shit reaction when Braun just comes out of nowhere and spears him.
Yeah.
Think of the reaction we would have got from Pat and Michael Cole.
No, and I think that's why I liked it because it was different. Like we're so accustomed to seeing it the other way that I thought it was just cool that
that's my only thing. I just would have used it as the replay, not the live shot.
Yeah, I loved it as a live shot. Shocking, me and Nick don't see eye to eye on that. I personally am just like, because again, it's that build up. It's like shit.
And it works so well with Braun because typically, and this is why I thought you were going to go. Typically, you'd be like, well, how did Kaiser not see him when he turned the corner as Braun was turning? But running fucking 30 miles an hour makes all sense in the world why he wouldn't see him until it was too late.
And it showcased
from the replay, but whatever.
No, I prefer. I think the live shot was great. Again, it's different. It's showing the production value and how much it's increased. I think it was one of the shots of the year because it just shows how freakishly athletic Braun Breaker is. Like it's ridiculous. Just continuing to see ways for him to outdo himself. I'm very excited for his career. I am very excited. Although, a scary moment when he fell off the damn ropes again. Because it's like, all right, we're gonna get somebody seriously hurt before they address this shit.
So that was my thought process. I hope he or someone else is able to save him from himself, whether it's a spot, something he wants to do that he shouldn't be doing, or someone's like, listen, Braun, you don't have to do that. You don't have to go that far. You don't need to be Darby Allin. I think just because he's in WWE, I feel safer for him because I think they have more checks and balances. But that is a concern of mine, is him just rising so quick and just doing these things over and over where they're like, oh, keep going. And then, God forbid, it ends in just an injury. It could be something as just an injury that necessarily isn't long-term, but just kills the momentum or takes a belt off of him. I hope it doesn't come to that.
I really hope that's not the case because WWE for years has been known of the company of telling people, all right, slow it down.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and that's
somebody
why,
really should go up to him and be like, you don't need to do all this right now.
Yes,
slow it down.
If this was happening in AEW, I would be terrified.
Oh, yeah.
Terrified.
Yeah. Awesome stuff, though. Lot happening there. The Judgment Day, the fraction continues. Finn addressing the fact that yes, he did take the key card. I like that they didn't pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah,
and they addressed it.
McAfee
Nick,
also. Did you see McAfee
Nick,
on the telestrator?
Tell me why that was the wrong decision.
But you saw McAfee on the telestrator, right?
That's the thing I hated the most actually about it because it does the. So again, it did the thing I hate with that movies will do a lot. And I fucking hate it when movies do it, where it has to spoon feed you everything. It can't let the audience get there themselves. Like last week we looked and we saw Finn grab the card and put it in. Like the people that saw that. I don't need Pat then go and see. Let the audience see it themselves. Don't fucking spoon feed it to me. It's like, did either of you guys ever watch that movie Don't Look Up?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
So the whole movie is basically an allegory for global warming. And it beats you over the fucking head about that throughout the whole movie. And as if it's not bad enough, they're then like, in case you haven't picked up on this yet, here's just a random montage of nature. Just so you fucking know what we're talking about. And that's kind of what they did this week. And it bothers the shit out of me when movies do that.
I think
it bothered me when they did that.
I completely agree on movies because I love to pick up on something little and then to wait for my wife, love you, but 45 minutes to be like, oh, that's what that was for.
Right.
I think the thing, especially what I've noticed more, because there was another storyline or a performer where they mentioned, they were like, yeah, actually, I went back and looked at the footage from last week and saw X, Y, and Z. So it seems like they're leaning into the whole whatever we see on TV.
Right.
The performers are smart enough to go back and see on their own too. So I like that fact that they didn't completely shy away from Priest, who could have seen it, not seeing it. But I think that's difference in where maybe they're going with the business in terms of, hey, we're pulling back the curtain a lot more.
Right.
We're trying to be a lot more, not open and intentional, but people aren't dumb. People have their eyes open so they see certain things. So I can understand where the McAfee telestrator was like, okay, we get it, a little too much. But I also think that's just ways for him to be good at what he's good at.
But especially for me, the way they, for months now, foreshadowed what happened at the very, very end without ever fully see, this is what happened this week. This is what happened this week. You can get your point across by doing it that way, and you could have done that still with the Judgment Day.
Yeah, but you have to understand they're also building Finn Balor being kind of questionable for the Judgment Day as well. So I think them acknowledging that, like, wait, why did you take the key? Because if they just if they didn't point it out and it wasn't a known thing, maybe the Damian Priest and the Judgment Day wouldn't have gotten their attention and they wouldn't have addressed Finn about it. And Finn's like, dude, I was keeping it away from Dom. Like, don't worry about it, man. Trust me. If I win Money in the Bank, I'm going after Cody. And it's trying to still make Finn look like he's doing it for the betterment of the Judgment Day when deep down we know it's not.
And your thought process is, but if you really want the payoff at the end, all of that shouldn't be known so that Dom can actually spring a surprise on Priest.
That too, and I didn't hate the Judgment Day segment as much as I did the Pat McAfee part of it. That's the part that bothered me the most, was the McAfee telestrator and all that shit where I'm like,
yeah, but like,
that's the real spoon feeding it to you thing.
If you look at the direction that wrestling has gone in, right? The TKO deal, the realism, the barrier between kayfabe and what's not kayfabe and all that stuff. If, say, something like, there's a missed call in a game, what are they doing for a week? They're talking about circling it. Look at this. We missed this last week live, but this ball actually was caught. That's essentially what you got there. It's like, wait a minute. How did we miss this live? Look, Finn actually took it. So I don't mind that because it is crossing that, like,
But
I think it would be trying to make us look dumber if they didn't acknowledge it when it was been everywhere. It's been all over social media.
Right, and they did acknowledge it with the Judgment Day segment.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
That part I didn't have that big of a problem with. Like I said, my problem was the Pat McAfee spelling it out, spoon-feeding everybody, hey, you're probably an idiot and you didn't fucking pick up on this yourself, so here I am forcing you to see it now.
Yeah.
That was the part that I hated. I didn't
saying.
hate the Judgment Day segment that much. I totally get addressing it to move the story forward. You didn't need the Pat part too.
Yeah, I get it. Because I think 100% to your point, Mike, that's where we're going. It's going to be more of a sporting event. It's going to be more of that. We know that. That's what's coming with it. I think in so many ways that could be good and fun and forthright and make for better in the business. But I do think there is totally going to be points where I'm like, okay, but leave a little bit to be desired, a little bit to be thought about. So, yeah, and I think that's going to be interesting for them to figure out how and when they utilize that moving forward. Is it going to be, do we completely go in? Do we leave little Easter eggs here or there? How do they approach that overall will be interesting.
And also, if you don't have Pat pointing it out, you have that segment, and now everybody who didn't pick up on it goes, wait, what? And they go back and they watch last week's segment, and now the social score for that
and I think that is just a way of them thinking, like, Pat, this is what we love to do with Pat, and this is where Pat is his best, so let's lean into that with Pat.
I think that was but I just think you could do that.
And I wouldn't even be surprised if Pat went and was like, yo, give me the telestrator. Let me go fuck around with telestrator.
But you could totally do that on the Braun Breaker thing we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Do you come back from a segment with that and Pat breaks that down? That would have been sick. Because I think it works better in that aspect, because in a real sport, they're breaking down a play that happened, not coaches talking on the sideline, shit like that. They're not breaking down, storyline stuff. They're breaking down a real sport.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think we're going to see a lot more of that.
Yeah.
In so many different ways.
And when done properly, I think it's great. Like they did that with the Randy Orton-Gunther thing when Orton actually got a shot. That was the perfect time to use Pat in the telestrator.
And then nothing came of it.
Nothing came of it.
So that's
nothing was supposed to come of it.
But something can come of this, and that's why I think ignoring it and pretending like it was something that was planned. So that's why, to me, it made sense to acknowledge it. I loved it. I thought it was good. I think it's a good way of now starting to creep some of that doubt about Finn Balor while Finn plays the, like, dude, I'm all about the Judgment Day, man. Priest, dude, if I win Money in the Bank, I'm going after Cody. You don't got to worry about
it.
Even
the way he did that.
Yeah. I'm doing this to protect Dom. Man. I did that, but when deep down, it's like, wait a minute. Now you're making the people think. You're not thinking of the low-hanging fruit, okay? And this is it's something that, with no offense to anybody who listens to my radio show, but, like, the majority of people that watch it aren't dissecting it piece by piece like the hardcore fans like us. So there will be times where things have to be spoon-fed, but also, like, it made sense and they made it entertaining still by addressing it. It wasn't like Pat McAfee pointed out and then the Judgment Day somehow didn't see that. Priest was like, dude, like, what the hell's up with that?
Right, which is why you don't need Pat pointing it out at all, is what I'm saying.
And I think
it's redundant.
I think part of it, too, with Finn specifically, is I think we alluded to, I think we're going to get a huge Finn push here. I think we're going to see he's going to be behind all of this. He's going to be the reason why the Judgment Day ceases to exist. He's going to be right back in that main event picture, and I can't fucking wait for it.
Same.
I think it's going to be awesome. He's deserving.
And then you'll have a Liv Morgan Dominic Mysterio and whoever else wants to join them faction, and then Rhea comes back and she's face. Damian Priest is face.
Dom's on the
I
outs
think
too.
Dom's on the outs.
Dom could be on the outs. There's
I
so
think
many good
because I
ways
think
to
that's
go.
The big swerve is like we all
Finn.
think it's
Yeah,
going to be
because Finn's
Dom, but it was
really been
actually
behind it.
Finn,
Yeah,
right.
it's been Finn and
it's
Liv who've
gonna
been
be-
kind of in on it.
It's going to be Finn, McDonough, Liv is the new Judgment Day.
Maybe Carlito gets to
Maybe
stick around.
Carlito gets to stick around
As
because
the-
I also
he could be
think
the right hand man or the
Right.
BFT. Is that what it was?
I also think down the line for probably maybe even this year's Mania, Rey Mysterio always said for his last match he wanted his son to be involved, and I think throughout between now to Mania they're going to find a way to turn Dom face, and I think at Mania it's going to be Dom and
Two of
Rey
them.
against two Judgment Day people.
Yeah.
And that will probably be Rey's last match.
Well, yeah, because they're building the LWO and Judgment Day,
Right.
and I mean, God, if they dragged it out to Mania, God bless us all. I'm sorry, I'm not into it. I'm not.
I don't think that specific
No,
part.
no,
I
I
think
know.
they'll take a break and come back to it.
I'm just
but-
saying the
yeah.
the Carlito Dragon Lee thing. All
Yeah,
of
I'm
that,
already
dude,
done on
is
that.
just so dragged out, and like I don't care. I just don't. I'm sorry.
I'm
No,
right there with
it's
you.
been same. Like Legado Fantasma, LWO, that whole just
Super
I don't like
talented.
it. I want to like it because they're all good individually, but it just I think it's kind of jumped the shark. Similarly, I want to give Ray some credit though. He looked damn good in the ring the other
Yeah.
day, better
Yeah.
than I think he has in a while. And sometimes you forget that he's fucking 50 as a full time
I
performer. So I do hope sooner or later he does hang it up just for his own safety. But yeah, I know he's alluded to that many times, and I think ultimately that's where we go.
I do think this.
You can even see Dom. Just Dom's even changing.
Exactly,
You know,
that's my
he's
other
just
thought, too,
become
yeah.
different the last few weeks.
and I think this coming
Getting
Mania is
softer.
probably
Yeah, he is. You
Rey's
can
last
see
match.
Could
It'll be a tag him and Dom against.
Yeah.
I'm assuming two Judgment Day people, but it could be some other feud at that point. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be Carlito. I mean,
Yeah,
Carlito
exactly.
could be
Yeah,
a Judgment Day. Yeah, it
Carlito.
could be so many. You can see where even I could see Carlito jumping and joining with not Andrade. Well, Andrade, but fucking what the hell? I'm forgetting of
Speed
Legado
champion Andrade.
Yeah, no, Legado
Right.
del Fantasmas.
Oh yeah. Well, they're on SmackDown. He's
So
on Raw.
I can see them coming at some point. Carlito and one of those guys versus the two of them.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of stuff between now and then, and especially for Ray, they'll make
Right.
things work for Ray
Exactly.
to give him the right send off. So, but and again, kudos to Liv again, absolutely crushing it
Oh,
for
yeah.
another week in all her different spots. Everything she did with Priest, with Dom, with fucking Zelina, and that the run in during the women's match, it just amazing all around.
Yeah.
Attitude Era, we probably would have got Dom to unzip that, show a little
Oh,
skin,
100%.
show a little skin on
Yeah,
there.
yeah, and it
But,
might
you know.
not have been a full sports
It would
bar.
have. Yeah,
under
it
there.
would have just been
would've
like
been a little
the
different.
vest would have ended like right under. her
Yeah,
boobs.
yeah,
a
it
little
would have been a
different.
little push up, would have been something. But
Yeah.
I mean, Damian Priest, again trying to be the good guy. Like, dude, Dom wants nothing to do with you, and she's like, I don't know.
Oh, so fucking.
It's good. It's good shit.
Yeah.
I
Now
also
we got.
just love Priest yelling at him in Spanish, like
Yes.
an like a
Yeah.
like an
I
angry
don't
Spanish
understand
dad.
what they're
But
saying,
it's-
but I do
But you
love it
kind of
as
know.
well. I
You
know,
kind of know.
right,
You still know
exactly.
exactly what the fuck he's saying, and it's so good.
Priest mixing in this Spanish during his promos too. I think throws him off a little bit. Does it sound like it kind of disjoints the promo a little bit? Because then he
still-
kind of has to explain what he's saying again in English.
I think that's the only reason why.
Yeah,
Because people don't
yeah.
get what he's saying in
And
Spanish.
my thing
so
is
he
like,
doesn't
just
have to
do it
reset.
and don't explain.
Like, Eddie
Because
used to-
that's what
Right.
makes it good, as you say it, and the people who get it do, and the people who don't are going to figure it out.
Especially because at current moment he's still technically a heel.
But
So,
I
like, he
think
doesn't
that's why.
have to
I think
explain
he's
it to
thinking like we were saying earlier. I think he's already made the face
competent.
turn.
I think so, too, yeah.
I think he's already in that because a heel absolutely wouldn't fucking do
Exactly.
that. Would not do that at all. Yeah, I think that's the trickiness, and you can see he's becoming more and more comfortable in his promos. But I still do think there's times where he gets a little frazzled or things don't go the way he expected, or even you have someone like Seth freakin Rollins who's just putting on a master class in front of
Right.
you, and you got to keep up. So
Yeah, great storylines all around, and then the elephant in the room, the very deranged elephant in the room, the Wyatt Six, Uncle Howdy, has arrived, and it's right from the beginning of Raw with the.
McIntyre walking. Well, no, what was it? No,
Well, no, it was
No, it's on
Rollins.
the Then
Rollins
Now.
walking
But
in
like
and
the then now
Yeah.
forever when
it
they
got
like
right
all
after it.
wonky, and then like there was the static at
yeah,
the very end. Yeah.
so cool. Some things,
That-
small things like that, man, are just chef's kiss.
Because it lasted throughout that whole thing, that was the moment where I was like, "Oh, this is definitely happening
tonight.
Yep.
And
And
then
McAfee said it at one point early in the broadcast too. Like Cole said something, and McAfee was like, "That's happening tonight, right?" And Cole said, "Yes," right as they went to break.
yeah. So the debut of the Wyatt Six, I think it lived up to the hype.
Yeah.
Where it goes from here,
That's
the
the hard
concern.
part.
we
I
don't
think-
know because
I was
yeah.
just think of how great Bray's
That-
return
yeah.
was,
Right.
and think of how shit the rest of it was.
I don't
Not
think
his fault, but
No.
it still was shit.
here's my opinion. Now, if you missed it, it was an incredible cinematic display of just the Wyatt Six. You had Nikki Cross crawling out to the lantern out of a door, and lights go out, smoke everywhere, and then slowly the camera just goes backstage to absolute chaos as it one by one unveils a different member of the Wyatt Six and Uncle Howdy's whole crew. People bloodied up, looked dead everywhere.
Yeah.
The one familiar face we saw was Chad Gable, deceased.
Hole in his head. Hole in his
head. Just bloodied up, and it was cinematically phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was intimidating. It was, if you're a child, you were frightened. You probably had nightmares like we did with The Undertaker back in the early 90s and the debut of Kane.
I was creeped out just when Nikki Cross was crawling out. I was like, "Oh, that's creepy."
Yeah.
Like, shit, that's creepy.
100% heebie-jeebies as adults. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's good horror
so
shit.
The tweet that was like, "We're making kids cry again. Wrestling is back."
Yeah, we're back, baby.
We're back.
And also, as nitpicky as I've been, this is where nitpicky is not the right word for this, because I'm going to be nitpicky, but in a good way.
Okay.
On the other side, this is where I was talking about earlier, where the Drew McIntyre thing, perfect foreshadowing, because you saw how normal Gorilla was.
Yeah.
Like you saw everything's fine.
Right.
Gorilla's perfectly fine, and then you saw how chaotic it was. And it was perfect foreshadowing.
That was my favorite shot of the whole thing, when they turn the corner to Gorilla and it's dark, and then it starts to flicker, and you just see, I believe it was Dexter Loomis was sitting on top.
With the sparks.
And I was just like, holy. That was the one.
That was,
fuck.
Oh, the sparks everywhere.
That was
so
touch.
it felt so realistic, because I'm like, Gorilla actually is just fucking destroyed.
Yeah, and Uncle Howdy almost tripping.
Yeah.
But, yep.
Shockmaster at Jace.
Yeah.
If he falls, his
Almost.
helmet falls off.
Yeah.
That would have been
But even when
brutal.
that first shot of him with his arms wide, like made you feel so much like Bray. It was
and the
it was
crowd
so
popped for that.
That
was
one
dope.
originally, and then the shot of when they're all together and it pulls out. It's just, oh my god, it's gonna be awesome.
They nailed it, and
100%.
They've already continued it today. McAfee went off the air. Somebody said one of his stooges on the show, I don't know which one it was, says, "What's going on over there? What the hell's going on with security?" And then the show cuts to black. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I didn't. Were they in their regular Thunderdome?
They were in the they were in their regular McAfee setup. Yeah. And it cuts to black. Hilarious, because people on Twitter who don't follow professional
100%.
wrestling, he was in the middle of interviewing like a Navy SEAL or something. So people like, oh, classic Disney, classic ABC, cutting a political stance or whatever. And it's like, nobody, that's Uncle Howdy.
Right.
Just chill out. So
Further proof that everything is pro wrestling, folks.
Everything.
Get on the
Which
fucking
is
train and get ran over.
Extra weird that like the fans wouldn't pick up on that, because on Tuesday's show I saw the clip where he talked about the Uncle Howdy debut for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, he did a long ass segment on his show about it.
He drops many things. He has long segments. He drops Easter eggs all around the set and everything. He does not shy away from the wrestling part.
I mean, think about even when his feud with Adam Cole.
Yeah.
That people thought that was a shoot.
Right.
Yep.
You know, and like McAfee.
That was good shit.
And shout out to McAfee. Just fucking, he's embraced it, and I love it.
Yeah. He's one of us, man.
He's one of us. One of us.
And then like 2 months he's going to get to be in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty. And so is his boys.
Yeah.
And for just being a part of his crew.
It's weird, but all right.
Shout out to them. But yes, they're doing a phenomenal job with it.
Yeah.
Good
QR
shit. And
code.
do we feel like we need to confirm all of the members? Do we feel like everybody has a pretty good handle on who was in there? So the first person we saw was Nikki Cross, then Eric Rowan, then Dexter Loomis, Joe Gacy, and then of course Uncle Howdy,
Right.
Bo Dallas.
Right. Yep.
That was kind of eerie at the end, just kind of seeing that face a little bit and being like, obviously that's a rotunda. It's obviously not Bray.
You could also see in his face like how emotional he tried his best to hide it, but you could see
because
like,
he's just Bo has always been emotional as a gimmick, and I think that's really him in real life. Anytime you've seen him on any sort of things where he's just being himself, he seems like a pretty emotional character, and I can imagine how emotional you're inheriting everything your brother did, and also how much pressure is on him to now take that and run with it and do it to perfection, which I worry a little bit, because I think, and I saw a lot of people tweeting about this, is okay. Now what?
Exactly.
They always get that part right. They always get the cinematic stuff.
That's
but now,
the easy part.
How does it transfer into the ring? All of those folks who we've seen in different roles. I think outside of maybe Eric Rowan, because he's been, and maybe Nikki Cross a little bit. I don't think Dexter Loomis or Joe Gacy or even those others have ever been in a main event picture where folks have been like, oh, they're great at X, Y, and Z. So they're going to have to cut their teeth in a different facet.
I mean, Bo Dallas was on NXT, but not really.
Like he was an NXT champ, but
wasn't.
that was even before the original crew that got to NXT and really made it what it was. So I think now is the fact of the bar so high.
Right.
How do you now live up to it week in and week out in the ring? Is a little scary.
I know they will be in the ring. I know that, obviously. I just don't know if I really need it for a long time. I think you
can't wait too long, though. That was the big problem with Bray.
Yeah.
He debuts in October, and he doesn't have his first match till the Royal Rumble. That's too long. You can't do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that's true.
I do think the benefit though is because there's 5 of them,
right?
And that you can
exactly. Like Uncle Howdy doesn't have to wrestle.
We don't have to see Uncle Howdy in the ring until maybe a Mania.
Exactly.
You have a Dexter Loomis or Joe Gacy.
That is a big
who can
plus.
go out there. Nikki Cross, who can obviously. I think that's the thing. Eric Rowan, we know, can go. There is still, I think, some rumors that there is a 6. I know we talked about 6 is Bray, but I think there is some still rumors that they might add someone new. So I think that is the one thing where they kind of get out of jail free card is they can protect Uncle Howdy in a sense and not have to throw him into the fire.
Yeah, that for sure. I don't think because like how do you book the supernatural things basically since the Undertaker? They've not been able to nail it.
They got it right once. The Undertaker.
Right, that's what I mean. Yeah, like and he even transitioned to more of a human dead man.
And you had a Paul Bearer.
You had a Paul Bearer.
Who made everything better and easier.
But Bray, as incredible as he was, we also know they kind of fumbled it multiple times.
I mean, really the only gimmick with Bray that kind of got right was the cult leader.
That was the best one.
Right.
Yeah, but he never won, and he never even won anything.
Yeah.
I think maybe his feud, even his feud with John Cena, he
lost almost all of those matches.
Yeah, he lost all the time, and then you have him come back as the Fiend and be this, indestructible beast, and then he loses and gets fucking squashed by.
That was just
which again kills the character. I mean, it does. Like,
that was the day that character.
You know what? To be fair to Goldberg, it was even before that because they do the Hell in a Cell match with him and Seth Rollins, where they just call off a Hell in a Cell match with a character that's supposed to be some indestructible character.
Yeah. So I just don't want to see that happen. I think that this is like. They could be the force that just disrupts everything. It doesn't matter what storyline. It doesn't matter who's involved. You have to be aware that any given moment, Uncle Howdy and the gang can just pull up and fuck your shit up.
Yeah.
And ruin things for you. I think them being the disruptor for a little while.
The one thing that gives me a little bit of confidence in this, particularly with Trips being in charge, I forget the name of the faction. Eric Young was the leader of the faction. This was NXT.
Oh, Sanity, yeah.
So not the same as the
Nikki
Wyatt
Cross
Sick6,
was in that
but
too.
Nikki Cross was in it. Some similar vibes in terms of how they premiered, how they came out, some of the things that were there. I think Triple H did a great job with that.
Yeah.
And originally in NXT. So I think maybe now more so Triple H being in charge of this as opposed to when Bray was at his height. We know he wasn't calling the shots. So I feel a little bit more confident with Trips at the helm. But
the only one difference for me there is they were never like a spooky thing. They were more like Retribution, but done right.
But they were like, we're gonna fuck. It looks different. We're gonna be backstage fucking people up doing all these things. So it gives me a little bit more hope that they'll get it done the right way because Trips was behind that. And I thought that group could have been way bigger if it wasn't for. I think a lot of that had to do with Eric Young at the time, and it just didn't seem like it went well from some of the stuff I read. But yeah, I think if anyone get it right is Trips, but they set the bar really high. And I think again, what happened with Bray, we all saw it. No knock to Bray, but we should have got way more out of Bray Wyatt than we did.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it just. I really want his legacy, which is already, locked in. His legacy is locked in. He was an incredible character and in all variations, regardless of how he was booked. That doesn't change the talent that was Bray Wyatt.
No. But the mind he had for wrestling.
The mind he had in general. The dude was just a brilliant, brilliant man and had a vision. And I'm more sad, obviously saddest about his early passing, but also just devastated that he didn't get to live through this era of WWE because man, it would have been.
Oh my god,
it would have been fucking.
So good for him.
Yeah, I think it would have been the Bray Wyatt we always knew. The character should be, not him. The character should be.
And the thing is too is like this. Everything that's happening right now is his brainchild.
Yeah.
This is all the stuff he put.
This is his legacy.
Put in order. So one, he should fucking be here. But two, you want them to really get it right.
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna, like you said, if you're gonna honor him and his legacy, this has to go right. And that's again scares me even more.
Yeah.
Because it's just like the bar is so fucking high, and I don't know that any one of those 5 performers that we named have necessarily asked for that. They've just been put in that situation because it makes sense. But I hope they're ready for it. I hope the company's ready for it. I hope everyone involved is ready for it because I really want them to get this right.
The best part, I mean, not that all of them are as well, but the best part about it is the fact that you have Bray's brother and one of Bray's best friends in it.
Yeah,
going to bust their ass to make sure. I mean, obviously, all 5 of them are going to bust their asses, but those 2 probably even more so than anybody else just because they know what this meant to Bray.
Definitely. And, hey, They're 1 for 1. I
Yep.
mean, the bat 1,000.
Yep.
The debut was no Shockmaster. It was about on the level of Shockmaster to Kane. It was pretty damn close to Kane.
Yeah.
I mean,
in regards to debut.
I hate saying this because it could be recency bias, but you can make a case that this could be like a top 5 debut of all time.
I mean, you just look at the numbers. It has people interested.
It's, by the way, to fall back, this was the highest watched video this week.
To tie it all in, it's
Joe Hendry fell behind the Wyatt 6 debut.
The Wyatt 6 also the most viewed video since WrestleMania. So it's
good time,
people are into
folks.
it. People
Yeah.
are
It's a good
into it. You have people like us who are just very curious to see the direction. You have people that are morbidly curious to see what type of supernatural beings can wipe out a whole backstage crew and cause destruction. And who knows how they will be booked, but we do know that we are excited for it, and the payoff was indeed worth it.
And crazy it's happening in what's usually a dead period in wrestling.
Yeah,
It's now
yeah.
the hottest. I mean, the 2 most viewed videos, like you said, since WrestleMania happened in what is
They
traditionally
didn't even
a
have to
dead
go over.
period.
They didn't have to go overseas for this
Exactly,
one either.
no,
they were in what?
haven't-
Fucking Fairfax? Is that what Fairfax? is in?
Fairfax.
No, that was AEW.
Oh,
they were Corpus
to-
Christi.
Yeah, Corpus
Which
Christi.
is
that was
extra funny about that.
Corpus-
Apparently, they were nervous that the
was a
crowd
corpse?
wasn't going to react well to the Wyatt 6, and it's like, then why are you doing it in a
I
town
know.
you don't think is going to react well?
Yeah.
But it
Corpus-
worked because they were pleasantly surprised with the crowd reaction.
They are notorious for not being a good crowd. Corpus Christi. That's always been. I feel like I've heard that multiple times. Where like that's a notorious crowd for being kind of disengaged.
Which makes you, they must have really trusted it because
Yeah.
the fact that this build again, like, and this is not just hyperbole. This isn't just 3 fucking marks up here talking about it. It wouldn't have been the most like video if it wasn't actually good, folks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This has been not dragged out, but this has been building for a very long time. So people were on the edge of their seat with anticipation. If it was a dud, people would have said it was a dud.
Right. Because honestly, they showed a lot of trust because the callback even more. You could have done this debut at Clash at the Castle to let the crowd go home happy after the Drew McIntyre
Yep.
thing.
True.
Like,
Oh yeah.
Give them a
And
pop.
you knew what the pop was going to
Exactly,
be.
right.
So
Especially in Scotland, that crowd would have popped so hard for that. No, I mean, but Corpus Christi popped as well.
yeah,
thank
yeah.
God.
Oh, they did. They fucking did.
They did, and it was awesome. And we'll see what happens. I mean, it's now been crossed over, like I mentioned, to the Pat McAfee show and SmackDown. I'm assuming we're gonna have some Wyatt 6 interactions or interference rather, and yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm very excited to see that direction. Nick, you mentioned Scotland. I just want to wrap with 2 things from there. One, another reminder: the United States, we need to step our shit up.
Yes.
Uh,
Although I will say, this is all right. They were a phenomenal crowd. Not quite as good as I was. Maybe I was going too high of expectations.
Scotland?
But yeah, they were great. They were incredible. They were the second best crowd of the year. But I don't think they were even that close to France.
No,
I
France-
think
Yeah,
blew them out of
Lyon
the water,
was-
and I thought they would. As much as WWE kept trying to force them to be as good as French, because I hated that noise meter thing.
yeah,
They
the
kept like,
decibel meter.
ooh, up it up. Like,
Yeah.
just let them
Yeah.
fucking naturally
Let
get
them
there,
know.
guys.
the fact that the crowd was not as into AJ as they were in France was also
Bruh.
pretty
Yeah.
interesting too.
The
because
Cody Rowe. Oh,
Yeah.
that shit has been stuck
Yeah.
in my fucking head since the weekend. That
they
is my
probably
new
were
favorite
like,
chant.
listen, the
love
French
it.
were into AJ Styles and they had that
Yeah.
awesome song for
Yeah.
him, and it was so cool to watch and listen to. Scotland was like, nah, we
They
got
were
like,
not
fuck you,
playing.
AJ.
We gotta
Especially
back our guy.
Even SmackDown.
Yeah.
Like they did not want him to get that promo, and thank God AJ is a fucking 5-star pro and
Yeah.
Hall of Famer, so he made it a way to get that promo out and still make it work. But they were not easing the fuck up. It was awesome.
Which also, speaking of, man, AJ and Cody just have fucking
Yeah,
chemistry.
they do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they
do. And No C called it last week. He thinks this is going to be a trilogy down the road.
I disagree with him about it being WrestleMania. I don't think that's where the
I don't
final
know if it
payoff's
lasts
gonna
that
be.
long.
But I could even see Money in the Bank being the third for these two.
This soon, yeah.
Possibly. Maybe SummerSlam. Maybe they push it to
We'll
then.
see what they do on
SummerSlam.
SmackDown.
Yeah,
Well,
we'll see if he's going to be around.
Yeah.
right? Like
You know what? Actually, maybe not Money in the Bank because they announced AJ's going to Japan. He's going to be wrestling for Pro Wrestling Noah. He's doing a match there on
shit.
July 13th.
I did not see it.
That's crazy.
wild.
This is a crazy. Your
Yeah.
champion, your WWE champion, is going to wrestle it for another.
No. AJ, not Cody.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, you said Cody. I think.
Yeah,
Did I
you
say?
said-
Oh, my
yeah,
bad.
say
I meant
Cody.
AJ.
That's
AJ's
right, because
going
also
to
Oscar's on a card in Japan the same
Io
day.
Sky.
For Io Sky,
Yeah.
you say on the card in Japan the same day. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so
I did see that.
cool stuff.
But no, that is cool. Fucking yeah, Vince would not. He's rolling over in his tanning bed. He would never.
Right, yeah.
There's no
tanning
way.
bed. He's probably just has fake bronzer he applies.
Yeah,
He has
and hair dye. He puts his hair dye on and gets
Oh,
some
of course.
tanner.
You think he still uses it? Probably does.
What?
Even though he's not like in the company anymore, you think he's still like fake tans and
Yeah,
dyes his hair?
dude.
Yeah,
That
because
guy,
later
of course
you'll
he
learn
does.
why he needs to be TV ready.
That's fair. That is well, maybe not that McMahon.
Well, we're gonna get to that McMahon in a
Maybe.
second. I want to wrap with one last thing in WWE.
We do. Are we going to talk about the belts being switched at Clash?
Well, that's where
all right, cool.
that's where I'm going. The one last thing I want to talk about from WWE and Clash is the titles we did not think was going to get
No.
changed, which was the women's tag team titles. Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill drops them. What? I guess they needed to give the home crowd something.
I'm not gonna lie, I loved it.
Did you?
I really like Alba Fire and
fucking
Isla
love
Dawn,
Isla
so
Dawn.
I really hope
I
they
will.
give them the push they
I don't want to go
deserve.
horny part here, but Isla Dawn
But
does
like,
it for
what
me.
the hell
Hell
do they
yeah.
do with Bianca and Jade now?
They're gonna wrestle each other at SummerSlam.
Yeah, the turn is happening before
like
we
I
thought.
said it was gonna happen a
Quick?
couple
Yeah,
months ago.
I didn't think it was going to happen. At first, I thought it was going to happen quickly.
Is Jade ready? I mean, I'm not putting the blame on her
Yeah,
for that.
yeah,
but I'm
yeah,
saying
yeah,
just in
yeah.
general, like we were hyped last week about the tag team
I know,
moves
and the move-
that
yeah.
they've been developing and
I know.
the chemistry, and it's like I would have loved to
It was
see more of a run,
At
but
the same time, never forget they made a Y2 AJ shirt and then broke up that same night.
that's true.
So
That's a good point.
You know, WWE's not opposed to making it look like things are going to go long term,
Yeah.
and then they don't.
It was a good swerve. It was definitely a good swerve. I wasn't expecting
Yeah.
it. Naturally, there's so many fucking idiots on Twitter who be like, well, because Jade botched, so they made a
Right.
change. Man, I'm like, no, the fuck.
they were always gonna
idiots,
do
and
that
it was always
change.
going to happen.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh,
I love the people who say,
fucking-
yeah,
oh my
in
God.
that
Yeah,
moment
in
they
the
were like,
middle,
oh
Triple
yeah,
H, no,
this
you
superstar
fucking
we've been
idiots.
building for 2
Yeah.
years,
Right.
slips on the
So
ropes.
fucking- yeah.
Pull the titles off of them.
Yeah, so fucking stupid. So yeah, I was surprised. It was a cool swerve.
Yeah.
I definitely am like, okay, well, we know where they're going.
Right.
We definitely know where they're going. I similar, Mike. I didn't think it was gonna happen this soon again. I thought we would at least see them together through SummerSlam, and then maybe as you got to the fall, then you start to make that turn and build. But also I would love take your time with it.
Exactly.
Take your time. Similar to what we're seeing, like with the Alpha and with Otis, not cracking yet, not going over the slow. Figure it out. I think you can perfectly start it, and even I think maybe this is where you can take the botch. So after the botch, obviously they're walking back up the ramp. Bianca literally lifts her chin up because you can
Right.
see Jade was feeling it. So maybe it's that where Jade's confidence is now broken or something.
Right.
Bianca's trying to build her. Jade's like, you know what? No, this isn't me. I'm a heel. I am the person. I am the fucking statuesque person that needs to run this women's
Right.
division. I don't need you. I can do it. And breaks away from Bianca. I think there's a lot there to build. I just hope they do it right. I hope they take
Yeah.
their time with it because it's so good. That's the match that I wanted at WrestleMania. As soon as I heard that Jade was going to WWE, take your time with it, build it up the right way. And I think you're going to get a fucking hell of a payoff.
But I think you still can do it at Mania, but you just I could see this being a trilogy event.
Yeah.
Started at SummerSlam, maybe match 2 at the Rumble, and then the final payoff at Mania. Because think of back in the day, we used to get multi pay-per-view matches, and this is two people who absolutely warrant more than one match against each other on high-profile stages like the 3 PLEs I just threw out there.
Yeah. No, it was a shock for all of us, but there's obviously we all knew what it was eventually going to lead to.
Mm-hmm.
It just might have gotten there sooner than we thought. But
which again is good. I'm a good booking on their part to lean into it to kind of convince us a little bit okay, we're going to see this out, and then boom.
there's
pull the
also
ride.
a part of
also-
it that the hometown.
Oh,
The hometown
100%.
thing.
Oh, they needed
I'd say that
one
was
win.
probably 80% of the reason for that change.
More than likely, absolutely. Give them
But
a
also,
win.
they didn't
But-
need to put them in that title match.
Right.
That was a
True.
last minute thing that we obviously know they grabbed the two of them out of nowhere. It's not like they had been fighting. So
Right. But I also don't see them putting the titles back on. I think
No,
Bianca
I
and
don't think
Jade,
so
I think
either.
they're
Oh, no,
they'll
yeah,
get a
yeah.
rematch, but I think they are
Yep.
done as a tag team.
and
for the
that
most
could
part.
be where a turn comes.
Exactly.
Yeah, something
they're not
happens-
seeing the belts again.
I could see rematch at Money in the Bank maybe, or even just on an episode of SmackDown.
Yep.
And then they lose that, and one of them turns on the other, blames them for the loss.
It could be this fucking
If
Friday.
anything, I now see Bianca being the one who turns because she'll use
I
the
hope
botch
so.
as
I
you fucking
hope
cost us
so.
this match. You couldn't get your shit right.
I would love that.
This is on you.
Because I don't think that's what anyone's expecting. Obviously,
Exactly.
we've never seen heel Bianca. We've only just now seen face Jade. I would love if they go that way. That would be, I think, more of a risk for the company. And I'm thinking outside of the ring, the marketability of Jade. Those might be some of the reasons outside of the ring why they might not want to make her heel. But also, I think the business is in such a good place where you're fine. You can navigate that.
Yeah, I also think that there's more of a risk for the heel being not as profound in the ring, because when a heel also is making botches, the crowd will try to give you that go away heat, where it's no longer, where it's like, okay, not only are you not a believable heel because you're fucking up in the ring, we just don't like you. Whereas like if she's the face, you get a little more grace for your in-ring actions because the crowd is behind you.
Yeah, and I think like the thing from Saturday that I think is, it's again not a concern. Like the ropes thing, whatever, that shit happens. That shit happens all the time. It could happen to anyone. I think the other thing with the tap to Baszler was a little bit more. I think that was like a little concerning because like, okay, well, you obviously don't want to see that. The commentators fucking
you don't
calling
want them
it out
to announce it
didn't
as well,
help
yeah.
either. And I think it was probably, I saw some people saying, hey, maybe the choke was a little too tight. That was a way of trying to tell Shayna to loosen up. Makes complete sense.
You gotta hide it.
You obviously got to be a little better at that. I think that'll come with time. And again, people forget she's only been wrestling for like total 2 fucking years.
Right.
2.5 years. It hasn't been long. She's not like she grew up in this business, so she's still so green in the ring that you give her the benefit of the doubt there. But I think that is even one where maybe people harping more on because they're like, oh, that wasn't a botch. That was just like you kind of panicked a little bit. But I don't even.
She'll be fine.
Yeah, I also think one thing she needs to work on a bit, and I mean, it's human instinct, so I totally understand it. But when she does make a botch, you see that it gets to her.
Oh, yeah,
like,
it does. Yeah,
then
she kind of goes Super
usually
Saiyan after that. Yeah.
Like, it gets in her head.
Because
it's human instinct. Like, that's just how people are.
She had one against Kairi Sane, which was a botch, and I don't even know if it was on her or on Kairi, but there was a botch between the two, and she like audibly yelled at her and like cussed her out, and then the next move was really stiff, and you could see it on her face. So I think that's something to work on. And again, she's green, she's still figuring this out. They've done everything right with her thus far. I don't think they trust her any less now than they did going before last weekend. So,
and like I said, it's just human instinct. You fuck up, your initial reaction is try to overcorrect.
Yeah.
So like I get it, but it's just something she definitely has to work on a little bit.
She will, and we trust that they will, and she is a star, and she's gonna be good in that feud between her and Bianca, the inevitable feud. Looks like it's gonna be.
She ain't losing any money after last weekend.
Absolutely
folks.
not.
That ain't happening.
Yeah, so
she's still a star.
That is just one hell of a week. But AEW, kayfabe cousins, why don't you fill us in on what the hell went on last night on Dynamite, and then we'll wrap with some other AEW. Well, we'll call it fantasy booking for now. We'll call it some fantasy booking to wrap the show. But kayfabe cousins, what do you got for us last night?
Yeah, so last night we kicked off with Roosh and MJF, which is
solid
cool.
commercial-free match.
First commercial-free match.
Which apparently was because Roosh is not allowed to be on Forbidden Door because of his contract with AAA and the whole CMLL thing.
Yeah, he's not the only one because I remember the last time Phoenix and Penta weren't able to be on.
Phoenix is allowed, I think. Okay. I think that it's like a case-by-case basis with each wrestler. So Roosh is not allowed, which is why they then did a commercial-free pay-per-view-esque match. Which, man, that was a great
that makes sense
though,
why they position giving him this opportunity with MJF because like, all right, we can't position you here. We're going to give you this great rub of MJF. No, I thought the match was awesome. Yeah. I think as much as we thought it was going to be really good. Nice to see MJF back in the ring. Looks great. Yeah. Doesn't look like he missed a beat. Even looks like he picked up some new tricks, which is nice in the ring. I think it went exactly how we expected it to go, and now we see where we go from here with him. But yeah, I thought that was a hell of a way to start the show.
I agree. Then was it like almost the next segment was that incredible Swerve Ospreay promo?
Yes.
That was good.
That was one of I didn't tweet it, but I meant to tweet it. Like in terms of dueling promos, that was one of the best. Yeah. They just went back and forth, shot for shot. The fucking hit row comment got me.
That was really
completely made me bust out laughing. And then obviously Swerve coming back and naming his wife and child was good. That one's exciting, but we talked about it. Who the fuck loses?
That's my thing. I'm loving that they're gonna have this match. Just I don't like that they're having it now. Yeah. Like give me this match like 4 months from now when you can actually have Ospreay win and it's not ending his short title reign of Swerve.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like if you're asking me who I want to win, Swerve and Ospreay, I'm gonna say Ospreay. In general, but now I'm like, I don't fucking know because I don't think Swerve has been dealt a good hand for this title run. I think he's made fucking chicken salad out of chicken shit compared to what they've given him. Yeah. So I don't want his reign to end. I don't think it's fair for it to end. But then Ospreay, you don't want to see him take a loss either. So like I'd imagine Ospreay's gonna go over.
And it's obviously
unless there's some shit where obviously there's a disqualification, which probably is the outcome. So they both keep their belts. But.
Or I could see them doing like a time limit draw. Yeah. I don't know if it's an hour or 30 minutes. I forget what they do. I think it's an hour on AEW pay-per-views. But I could see them doing an hour time limit draw for those two.
Yeah, I mean,
That's how
either
you get
way,
out of it, but-
if you're gonna do right by either of them, it also means doing right by the company.
Yeah.
So you got to get this right, and it scares the fuck out of me
Yeah.
because they usually don't get these ones right. So
No.
I hope they get it right.
Especially because I don't know what right is at the moment.
Yeah, no,
And
I
that's
know.
the worst
I know because
part.
they
Like,
put themselves in a position
exactly,
where
yeah,
damn
like,
if you do,
didn't-
damn if you don't. So
you didn't
they
have to
put
do this
themselves
match
in that
here.
box. But I think kudos to them. Last night's
Yeah.
promo really kind of ratcheted up.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think for the match, it made me more excited
Same.
for it. So it's nice to see them. And hopefully they continue that over the next few weeks until we get there.
Yeah, I agree. That match is going to be an absolute killer.
What else we got?
Would that be? That'd be 4 pay-per-views in a row where Ospreay stole the show, and potential 3 in a row.
Yeah.
3 out of the 4 where he has maybe a match of the year contender.
Yep, because there was a few. I forgot. There was a couple tweets going around the other day. We were talking about matches of the year.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people thought from some of the stuff we saw at Clash the other day, especially AJ and Cody, that might have been matches. I'm like, no, sorry, Ospreay still got my probably 2 matches of the year. Cody and Roman is up there for me, but I think him and Takeshita and him and Danielson.
I agree with.
It's hard to not have those in your top 5. at least.
Yeah. Both of those would make my top 3. I think I'd actually go the first Cody AJ as my number 3.
Well, I think a lot of people were saying
Yeah, it was
that
an
one's up
amazing
there
match.
too. Yeah, I think that one was better than Clash.
Yeah.
For sure.
You guys will do some fantasy booking.
One other thing, I also loved Claudio and Pac and
Yes.
Owen Hart. That match was
Yep, that was a
great.
fucking banger.
And
They did awesome there.
I'm now really intrigued to see who's going to win the Owen Hart tournament.
Same, because we got what? We have a wild card.
We have a wild card, which I
Jeff
think is
Jarrett.
probably going to be Hangman Page.
I
'Cause I
think
think
so,
he's
too.
probably going to be the one
Yeah,
who
'cause
wins.
it's only 8 people in it, so
Exactly,
it's gonna go quickly now. So we're already down to because there was another match from it last night, wasn't there?
There was a women's
woman
one.
on the women's
Chris
side.
Statlander
Yep.
versus somebody. I forget who off the top of my
Yep,
head.
Statlander won
she
that
won, yeah.
one. Obviously, Willow had another cool promo backstage, so that's they're gonna be fun to see the two
Yep.
of that kind of come to a crescendo as well. Yeah, I mean, I think AEW is making good moves. They're in a pretty good spot right now.
Yeah.
Just don't fuck it up, which I know we say often.
Right.
But just don't fuck it up.
They're starting to turn the ship,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is a very good thing.
No, it is because, and I hope it's looking at the competition and seeing what
Yeah.
WWE's doing.
Yeah.
You got your fucking,
Everybody goes
you
through
got
down
your star, and
periods.
you got your star back. So
Exactly,
you got your
yeah.
bell cow who's now can take the rock and run with it.
Yep.
So I think this is a perfect time for them to lean into that and just let their guys do what they do.
Yeah.
Conrad at Hey Conrad. Hey, it's Conrad rather.
Yeah. King of podcasting.
Yeah.
King of wrestling podcasting.
Allegedly.
Also, yeah, or
Well, I mean, he does like all of them.
he has a monopoly.
It's him
Well-
and Pritchard, him and Jarrett,
Him and Shivani, him and
Bischoff,
JR.
him and Shivani, him and JR,
All
him
those
and Arn
fucking
Anderson.
guys.
He started one with Kurt
Hey,
Angle,
man.
and then somebody else came in.
Married
he
Ric
does
Flair's
many.
daughter.
Exactly. Yeah.
all it
Conrad
takes.
Thompson with the report that allegedly Shane McMahon has expressed interest in joining AEW.
Ching, ching.
Yes.
So, also just for a little context, backstory to that, apparently on the podcast he did with JR last week, JR, I don't know.
Conrad.
Yeah, Conrad and JR. JR threw, I don't know if it came out of nowhere. The quote I read made it sound like he came out of nowhere, where he was just like, I think if he wanted to, Shane McMahon could work for AEW.
JR
And
dropping Easter eggs?
He's like, it's never gonna happen, but I think if he wanted to, it could.
And that's
then,
so out of left fucking field, too,
Right.
JR.
Exactly.
Get
And
well
then
soon, too, JR.
Conrad said he got a text from a friend in AEW that
Yeah.
Shane McMahon had been reaching out to people in AEW to find out how would they feel if he worked there.
Yeah. This is a swerve, obviously. It is professional wrestling and anything is possible. We've seen crazier shit or equally as crazy things happen.
Yeah.
But the fact that Shane has been not involved with WWE since the Rumble of last year.
Mania 39, where he tore his quads, jumping over the Miz.
Yeah.
And Snoop Dogg had to finish
Yeah.
his
That's
match.
right.
That was the
Okay.
last
That
we've seen
was
Shane
so
on WWE
nasty.
That's
TV.
right. But there was the tension from the Rumble and all that shit,
yeah.
And that kind of led to that. So
I
it's
think
been
that
a
was
while.
actually, the Rumble stuff, I think, was actually the year before that, even. I'd have to go back and double
Yeah,
check.
my
but I think it
timelines are
was.
all fucked up.
Yeah, it's been a while.
He
since
hasn't
we've
been
seen Shane
around
O'Mac. Yeah, it's been a minute.
WWE,
For a
okay?
long
He hasn't
time.
been around
Since
WWE.
his dad's been
Since
in
he
charge,
tore his
essentially.
quads.
Him showing up at AEW would be pretty wild. I
Yeah.
mean, this would remind me of like the early days of TNA when you had like Hogan and Angle and Mick Foley and Ric Flair and all those dudes running the show over there.
Except this would be even bigger.
Yeah, this would be
Yeah,
even
this-
bigger.
This would be bigger than Hogan signing with WCW. When
Yeah.
he was still towards the back end of his prime.
Yeah.
I think it would be a disaster, personally.
I agree.
I think this would be so stupid. It's such a desperate move on both of their behalf. It would be Shane McMahon hanging on to whatever legacy is. Shout out to Shane, It would be him hanging on to whatever legacy, maybe a fuck you to his dad a little bit. And this would be Tony Khan being like, ha, 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 we got him. And I think it would end up being a train wreck. It would be like Vince Russo 2000 WCW.
Or it's Shane greasing the wheels for what you did mention earlier. Vince's no non-compete is up in January.
Oh.
Maybe Shane's just starting it up for, hey, Dad, come on in.
So last week we talked about the Timu bloodline.
Yes.
There's another bloodline. Not the only wrestling has more than one royal family. Shout out to you, Cody Rhodes. But we know who the royal family is.
Yes.
Half of them, and I say half of them because a husband, we know a wife is at home, doing whatever she's doing. Kudos to her. So half of the family's there. Where's the other half of the family? Out of the business. Remember in 2001, Vince bought WCW. Who was at WCW? Shane McMahon.
That's right.
What if, in some crazy fucking parallel universe that is professional wrestling, Shane McMahon is coming back because Vince is somehow weaseling his fucking way in? We fucking know Vince McMahon. We've known him our whole lives. He's not happy about how this shit went down.
Oh, hell no.
He still thinks
still
he
wants
should
it
be in
back.
charge.
Absolutely.
He still wants it back. He still has that fucking burning desire and itch. Probably has multiple itches. But we know he wants to be back there.
Yeah.
What bigger coup, to your point, for Tony Khan than to say and go and get the guy who he's battling against, who essentially had to step down. Now Trips has essentially been running circles around him. We know that doesn't sit well with Vince McMahon. I know that's his son-in-law, whatever, but not all of this shit supersedes family for Vince McMahon.
Oh, of course.
So what
the
if
McMahon family is real life?
Exactly.
Fucking what you call the HBO show? I'm blanking on the name of.
Succession?
Yes.
Yes.
They're real life Succession.
Yeah. So that's my thing. What if this is fucking greasing the wheels? Shane O'Mac is coming in to eventually get Vince McMahon back, and we literally have a real bloodline feud between WWE and AEW.
I would love if Shane's gonna debut. It has to be in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It has to be because that's where he was on Nitro.
Yeah.
With a turtleneck on.
At
a parking lot.
Yeah.
In a pool.
Yeah, with a pool. You're
Yeah,
right.
In a
there's a pool
arena
there.
pool.
I
Which
don't
would be a very AEW thing.
It would.
I'm saying this knowing that this is completely fucking
this is never gonna happen.
insane.
No, but it's not even that. I'm
But
just
like,
saying,
what if?
Right.
it would be cool
And with
for
the
like
players involved,
a
what
month?
if is fucking it would
Yeah.
it would be terrible.
It would be so
it would
bad.
blow the fuck up in AEW's face. Because what is
Right.
Vince McMahon doing for you these days?
Right.
What the
Nothing.
fuck is Shane McMahon doing for you these days? Especially
Nothing.
if it's going to be in ring. We love to see Shane once a year jumping off Titantrons. But other than that, sorry Shane, that was your addition to the business in the ring. It would be terrible, but god damn it, I would love to see it.
Yeah. I mean, the last time Vince McMahon had full control of a company that he didn't benefit from no crowds and then crowds coming back so they loved everything was one of the worst years in professional wrestling.
Yep.
In 2019.
we're gonna have to adjust. Keep talking. We're gonna have to adjust the camera for the last few minutes here.
Completely fucking left field. But I thought when I seen the Shane McMahon thing, I'm like, Vince is sitting at home. He's not going to sit at home for long.
No, of course not.
We've heard people talk. I've seen some rumors, seen some things. Nothing to it, nothing concrete, but that he wants to come back in some capacity. It ain't going to be in WWE. Ain't no fucking way in hell. Nick Khan, the folks at TKO are doing this. There's no chance in hell, so it would have to be elsewhere.
Yeah.
And why? And again, why the fuck would Shane McMahon think he's going to go to AEW now and do anything
Right.
other than for it to be something on behalf of his dad, which wouldn't fucking surprise me. I can't imagine he's going to take Triple H's side over his dad. I'm sure even the two of them, I don't even think they're even fucking cool in real life. Again, I'm spitballing, but I doubt it. So there's so much there. We know how Triple H and Stephanie feel about Vince and what that has looked like, especially Stephanie, who didn't want to be even in the same room with him when all of this shit was going down. This would be a real Vince storyline from the best days. But god damn it, I would fucking love it. Please happen.
It would be messy. I don't know in a good way, but wouldn't be able to look away.
Yeah,
No,
yes.
it would be
You
the
know,
car,
like
it'd be a car crash.
you like
Yeah.
have to watch it.
It
Like,
would be like the Wyatt Sick debut. You gotta watch it.
yeah,
but
but the
not
Wyatt 6 at least has more. The ceiling
No,
is
but I'm
much
saying,
higher.
Like the appeal of it, like
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is fucking appointment television. I gotta tune in for this.
Interesting stuff, man. Just one of those wild ass, But then again, I remember when the reports started circulating about Kevin Durant going to the Warriors. You were like, that will never happen.
Remember when Bischoff came to WWE? Like again, that it's not at this point, but fuck, whoever thought they would have saw Eric Bischoff on WWE television. Vince Russo going from WWE to WCW. Like some
That's
of
a little
things
more
have
believable.
happened.
He's a weasel.
Yeah, he is. 100%. But like some of these things have happened over the time that I think now because it's more real and we're older and we can pull the curtain back on kayfabe, we don't think, this won't happen. But like honestly, the way where the business is right now, I certainly wouldn't put it past Tony Khan on to make a call to Vince McMahon.
Oh, no.
And I wouldn't put it past Vince McMahon to listen to that call.
Yeah.
100%. I would not.
The only reasoning I don't think he would is Vince always has to be in control.
Yeah.
And Tony's not going to give up control to Vince. And there's no way Vince would
For some
work
shit
for
like this,
anybody.
because I could totally see Vince taking the call, sitting down, and completely flipping it on Tony Khan. Because he's still Vince McMahon.
True.
So I can see him convinced. Because Tony, again, we know this. As much as we got to give credit for Tony to be running a business and having an actual competitor, he's still a 13-year-old kid at heart.
Yeah.
He said it. He says, "I book for the true diehard people like me who want to see blood and this, that, and the other." So I wouldn't put it past Vinnie Mac to be able to fucking swindle him and get him wrapped around his thumb one time.
Yeah. Although he did say WWE is the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling.
yeah.
So it's a real bad look if he
Yeah.
then brings in Vince McMahon, the guy that made him make those comments.
Yeah, and he's not just a wrestling guy. He's also a Jacksonville Jaguars guy.
Yeah.
and-
again, and this is why probably
Yeah,
won't
but it's
happen,
fun-
because
it's
there's
fun
some
to
real
talk-
life
absolutely
implications.
fun to think
But if
about.
we're fantasy booking, folks, oh my god.
And let's be 1,000% honest. If Shane McMahon really wanted to make this happen, he
It'll
probably
happen.
could make
Oh,
it happen. He
100%.
probably could make it happen.
100%.
There's enough of his buddies involved in that company now that he could probably get his way in there. But man, freaking ton of shit to talk about. Great show.
Yeah.
Contentious, jam-packed, ton going on. We got people's pets' heads falling off. It's been a crazy ass week. You guys got any last words for the week?
No, I just want to give a quick shout out to Javon Evans. I feel like I said this a week ago about Trick Williams having the fucking rocket strapped to him. Javon Evans is I can't say he's him because we already have a him, but that man is bouncy and that man is a fucking star.
Yeah.
An absolute superstar. I can't wait to see how he's positioned. And again,
He's young.
Similar to how we mentioned earlier
like
with
19.
Braun. He came in and he already jumped that line in NXT because he can do shit that other people can't do.
Yeah.
So that's where we are in the business.
Let's go. Shout out to Javon Evans. Excited to see where he goes too, man. He's can't miss television, and he got to shine twice on Tuesday night,
Twice.
which
Good
was
for him.
dope. Shout out to him, a very young star in NXT. Man, we'll see what happens with SmackDown. We'll see what happens with the Wyatt Six, Uncle Howdy, where he turns up next, whose heads get ripped off or who's bloodied up. Continue to like, share. Shout out to everybody. We had our best week of the podcast this past week. A lot of great conversation, a lot of new subscribers, man. Shout out to No C for the look on that. And
Twitter handle is now live.
Yeah, the Twitter
right.
handle is now live.
Everybody go follow.
Yes, at EIPW podcast. So everything is pro wrestling, the acronym podcast. Go follow. We'll be sharing all our clips on there. We'll be sharing a ton of wrestling news. You know, the three of us will be running live tweeting shows, and it'll just be a good time, man. We want to keep the conversation going. So we appreciate everybody, and we'll see you back here next week. Peace.